Will the world fall apart after the death of Pope Francis? Was he truly the last pope? For centuries, whispers of an ancient prophecy have lingered, a prediction that one final shepherd would lead the church before a great collapse. Many dismissed it, others forgot, but now the silence has begun. Because on Easter Sunday, the day of light, of victory, of life overcoming death, Pope Francis spoke what would become his final public words. And hours later, he was gone. The timing, uncanny. The message, deeply unsettling. Because what Pope Francis delivered wasn't a gentle Easter homily. It was a reckoning, spoken with quiet urgency, as if he knew this was his last chance to say what truly mattered. He didn't speak of comfort. He spoke of evil, of darkness still alive in the world, of a poison in the human heart, of violence rising and souls being forgotten. He said this: evil will remain until the end, but it no longer has the upper hand. Yet now, the one who said those words is no longer with us. So what did he see? What did he feel coming? And what are we left with in his absence? On Easter Sunday, while the world gathered to celebrate light overcoming darkness, Pope Francis stood before millions and delivered a message unlike any he had given before. It was heartfelt, it was grave, and, as we would later realize, it would be his last. Only hours after sharing what would become his final blessing, Pope Francis passed away. The timing alone shook believers to the core. To die on Easter, the very day that commemorates resurrection and eternal life, felt more like a divine signal than mere coincidence. And it wasn't just the timing that left people uneasy. It was the message itself. The Pope, often known for gentle encouragement and quiet compassion, chose this moment to speak with uncommon clarity about the state of our world. He talked about the rise of hatred, about the diabolical pride poisoning the human heart, about how darkness is not gone, only quieter, waiting for those who forget what is sacred. He spoke of discarded lives, the unborn, the elderly, the vulnerable, and called out the deepening thirst for death that now infects not only nations at war, but families, communities, and even hearts that have grown cold from fear and apathy. He didn't offer shallow comfort. He didn't promise peace without struggle. Instead, he reminded the world that evil still walks among us, not always loudly or violently, but in the slow erosion of compassion, in the rejection of truth, and in the forgetting of God. In what now sounds like a final plea, Pope Francis said this: God created us for life and wants the human family to rise again. His voice trembled not with weakness, but with the weight of knowing time was running out. He saw the world tearing itself apart. Gaza, Ukraine, Yemen, the streets of broken cities, the hearts of displaced people, and called for peace, not as an ideal, but as a necessity for survival. He urged political leaders to stop arming for war and begin preparing for reconciliation. He asked for prisoners to be set free, not just from physical cells, but from hatred and fear. And most of all, he asked the church, and every believer, to remember what it means to be human in the image of a merciful God. The final moments of his message weren't filled with grand theological declarations, but something much quieter. He said, "Let us entrust ourselves to him, for he alone can make all things new." And then, the voice that had led the church for over a decade fell silent. What followed was not chaos, not immediate mourning, but a strange and sacred pause, as if the world itself understood that something had shifted. The Pope's passing wasn't just the loss of a religious figure. It felt like the closing of a chapter in human history, a warning delivered, and now we wait. Many have begun whispering about prophecy, about ancient lists that predicted a final pope, about what comes next in a world where faith is fading and unity feels like a distant memory. Whether you believe in prophecy or not, the truth remains. The final words of Pope Francis weren't just about Easter. They were about us, about where we're headed if we don't turn back, about what we lose when we stop listening for the voice of God. This was not just the end of a papal reign. It may have been a final call, a last message to a world asleep at the wheel. We were made for life, and yet we are surrounded by death. We were called to hope, and yet we are led by fear. In his last breath as shepherd, he did not point to himself. He pointed to Christ, crucified, risen, victorious. And now, it is our move. Our world is in our hands. What we choose next will echo for generations. Will we listen? Will we change? Or will we simply look away? Tell us what you believe will happen next in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more truth in a world that's rapidly forgetting it.